Ulysses knew there were certain things he would not be able to control himself around, and that idea, simple as it sounds, feels key to me. This video is around 10 minutes long, so if you can't watch it all the way through, you probably have an attention problem. Then again, that's not unusual. It happens to a huge number of people. I would even say it's one of the most common things today. And that's part of the problem. Because it happens to so many people, it stops feeling serious. It becomes so normal in everyday life that we treat it like just another habit. Something harmless. Something that's simply there. But some habits, no matter how normal they seem, change the way you live without you noticing. Because this is not just about using your phone too much. It's not just about checking social media all the time either. It's about something harder to see. The feeling of not being fully present in almost anything. Always looking for one more stimulus, one more small distraction to keep you company while you do whatever you're doing. You notice it even when you're alone, because even silence no longer feels comfortable. I guess if you clicked on this video, part of you's already noticed all of this. Maybe something about it doesn't sit right with you. Maybe you feel like you spend too much time staring at screens, consuming one thing after another. And at the end of the day, you're left with that strange feeling of having been entertained. Yes, but not actually well. As if you filled your time, but not in a way that left you with anything. And I wanted to talk about this without making it overly dramatic, because a lot of the time when people talk about this, they do it in a preachy way, like, your life's a mess and this is happening because you have no discipline. I really do not like that kind of elitist talk. I don't think this has to be turned into a tragedy, but I also don't think it makes no difference. I've been there too. I've also gone through phases of picking up my phone without thinking, opening an app out of pure habit, spending more time than I wanted looking at things that, if you didn't ask me about them an hour later, I would not even have remembered. And it wasn't because I was looking for something specific. A lot of the time it was simply because I didn't want to stay still, to fill an empty space. 5 minutes waiting for something, 10 minutes before going to sleep. There was always some small excuse to look. At some point, that started to wear me out, not in some dramatic way. It wasn't like a film scene where suddenly everything became clear. It was more something that kept building up. A feeling that I was wasting too much time on things I didn't really care about. And not just time, attention and energy too. One of the ideas that helped me understand this best comes from the story of Ulysses. You don't need to know the whole story. There's just one part that matters here. In the story, Ulysses was about to sail through the place where the sirens were. Their song drew sailors in until they drowned. Ulysses knew that if he listened without protection, he would fall for it too. So before getting there, he asked his crew to tie him to the mast of the ship. It's a simple image, but I think it's brilliant. Because what he really did was stop trusting his future self. He understood that when the moment came, he wouldn't be in a position to decide well, so he made the important decision beforehand, while he was still calm, while he was still thinking clearly. And I think something similar happens with phones, with social media, and with many of the things that hook us. We like to think everything comes down to willpower, that the key is to be strong in the exact moment, to have the phone next to you and not pick it up. And yes, sometimes you can, but many other times you can't. And not because you're weak, but because what's in front of you is designed not to let you stop. So sometimes the solution is not to try to be stronger. Sometimes it's simply to stop making it so easy. I realized something pretty basic. If I slept every night with my phone next to me, sooner or later I was going to pick it up. It wasn't a matter of discipline. It was a matter of proximity. It was right there. It was too easy. Half asleep, bored, barely thinking, I would end up doing it. So I stopped sleeping with my phone next to the bed. For the past 3 years, I've left it charging in another room before going to sleep. At first, I thought it was a bit ridiculous to have to leave my phone in another room just to stop myself from grabbing it. But now that I've been doing it for so long, it's one of the best habits I have. Because it removes that automatic gesture, that moment when you reach out your arm without even noticing. And when you remove that gesture, more things change than you would think. Nights become calmer. You have more room to read for a while, watch a film properly, or simply do nothing. which is good too. Because sometimes it feels like every moment has to be filled with something, and it doesn't. Doing nothing for a while is healthy too. In fact, I think one of the things we handle worst right now is exactly that. We can't stand empty spaces. We find it hard to wait in line without checking our phone. In the end, what really is hard for us is being bored. Another thing that helped me a lot was setting a time limit on social media. Nothing complicated, just an app that restricted my daily usage time. And I lowered it little by little. I say this because a lot of the time when someone wants to change a habit, they try to do it all at once. They go from using their phone a lot to barely touching it. And that usually doesn't last. Not because they're trying, but because sudden change almost always sounds better than it works. What helped me more was doing it gradually, cutting down little by little. Noticing which moments of the day were the worst. Seeing when I opened apps out of boredom, out of habit, or simply to avoid something else. And that alone already helps, because you start to see what you're doing more clearly. When I started limiting the time, I realized that a lot of the time I did not even really want to open the apps. I'd open them just because I had a free minute. And little by little, I reduced that time until later on, I ended up deleting my social media accounts. That was already a bigger step and a different topic. It's something worth talking about separately because it's not as simple as it sounds. But even without going that far, just setting a daily limit already makes a huge difference. You read better, you rest better, you concentrate a little more. Not always, and not overnight, but enough to notice that something changes. And I don't want to make it sound like 2 small changes fix everything. They don't. I still have days when I waste time. I still have moments when I get more distracted than I should. But the difference is that now I understand it better, and above all, I no longer leave everything to chance. I no longer trust so much in the idea that when the moment comes, I'll make the right decision. Because a lot of the time, you don't make the right decision. You make the quick one. And that's not the same thing. And I think that's what I would most like to leave in this video. The idea that not everything has to depend on you being mentally strong every single day. Sometimes it's enough to make small changes that help you when you're not at your best. Put your phone further away. Turn off notifications. Limit your time. Make it less easy to do the thing you know traps you. These are simple things, but they have something important going for them. They work better than a promise made with a lot of motivation on a Sunday night. And maybe you don't need to change everything. Maybe it's enough to start with something small. Something that removes a bit of noise. Something that gives you back a bit of silence. That, at least, is what has worked for me.